Reverend Dr. Benjamin Chavis Jr. was one of the principal organizers of the Million Man March in 1995, an event meant to bring attention to the violence within the Black community and come up with solutions. He was also the executive director and CEO of the NAACP and is now a national co-chair of No Labels. And Dr. Chavis joins me now. Dr. Chavis, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. So good to see you again.
It is wonderful to see you again as well. And it was interesting seeing, we watched some video of you from back in the Million Man March days, and I know you were obviously leader of the NAACP. So I am curious about your connection to this organization, No Labels. I want to read to you from you guys', this is your piece that you all put out that sort of explains what you're doing. And on page 2, it says the following. It says, we, No Labels, created the first of its kind House Problem Solvers Caucus and an allied Senate group that were the force behind historic bipartisan achievements like the 2021 infrastructure bill. Joe Biden, the sitting president of the United States, is running for re-election largely on that bill and on his other bipartisan achievements, many of which are credited to the Problem Solvers Caucus and that centrist group in the Senate.
Bipartisan.
Right. And so if you have a president that's already doing bipartisan work and running for re-election on it, why run a third-party candidate that could cost him the election?
We want him to continue to do bipartisan work because bipartisan work is the only thing that works. The two extremes, the far left and the far right, does not provide solutions to America's problems.
But at the moment, Joe Biden, not to interrupt you, I'm sorry, I apologize for interrupting you. Joe Biden is operating from the very middle that you tout in your literature.
We want him to continue to work.
So then why not just support Joe Biden for re-election?
First of all, let me clear something up. No Labels is not a pro-Trump spoiler.
Oh, I didn't say you were.
And No Labels is not an anti-Biden group. What we're for is that all polls show, including NBC, shows that most Americans do not want to see a repeat of the 2020 election. So what No Labels is doing at the grassroots level, we're trying to get ballot access in all 50 states, including the District of Columbia, in case by next year, there's the candidates that the Republicans put forward. We know it looks like the candidate that the Democrats put forward would be President Biden. We'll make a decision. Right now, No Labels doesn't have a candidate. We're not running up anybody for office now. What we're trying to do is to get in place in case we need to next year.
Well, first, let's just button up this piece here, because you've said also in your piece the dominant leaders in both parties can't or will break out of this vicious cycle. Again, who are these leaders? You talked about leaders on the left and leaders on the right. We know who leaders on the right are. We report on it every night.
Far right, far left.
But who are these leaders on the far left who you are saying are creating polarization? Because, again, Joe Biden's party is already operating as a majority centrist party.
Well, one point of polarization is those who call for defunding the police.
When has anyone put forward a bill to defund the police? That has not happened.
But I'm saying it does not have to be a bill. It can be the rhetoric. There's a lot of rhetoric on the far right as well as the far left.
But again,
that doesn't serve the interests of the American people.
But here's the difference. On the Republican side, the far-right rhetoric is actually dominating their policies. They're attempting to implement. One of the things that No Labels has said is that if it's not Donald Trump, that some of the candidates who might be acceptable include Ron DeSantis.
No,
No
Labels has not said that.
But yes, there have been quotes from No Labels saying that
where's the quote?
That it would be
No
acceptable.
Labels is not. I represent No Labels.
Okay.
I can tell you we have not endorsed any candidate.
Okay.
Republican or Democrat. So as far as No Labels supporting DeSantis, that's incorrect.
Okay.
That doesn't happen.
And let me ask you if Ron DeSantis would fall under the same extremist label that you're kind of characterizing Donald Trump. Would you say Donald Trump would be characterized as somebody you would consider extreme? Because the NAACP, which you used to lead, has issued a travel advisory on Ron DeSantis' state, Florida, because of the attacks on LGBTQ people, on Black history. You used to lead the Million Man March. I mean, he has run a campaign that is decidedly anti-Black. Do your objections to Trump also apply to him?
No Labels would never support a candidate that bans books, burns books, and prevents people from knowing true history. We are anti-discrimination in all of its forms.
So
we're also against voter suppression in all of its forms.
Well, then he couldn't be your candidate. You would get in if he was the nominee.
Listen, but I'm just unpacking now what we mean by against voter suppression. Voter suppression is also not blocking access, equal access to the ballot, which we have run into in several states, in Arizona and Maine. party officials on the Democratic side have tried to block no labels from getting equal access to the ballot. That's voter suppression.
So one of the things that No Labels has said, or at least representatives of No Labels have said, is that if Joe Biden is ahead by a wide margin, then No Labels would exit the race. That is your quote.
That's my quote.
But if it was narrow, then No Labels would get in. That seems to be the awkward. Hold on.
No, that was not my quote.
That was okay.
I'm very clear. What No Labels is said in the past, what we say now, and what we will say in the future. We will not make a decision on any candidate until after Super Tuesday, before the April convention in Dallas. If we don't see a clear pathway, there's No Labels, for a unity ticket, a Democrat and Republican, to win the Electoral College, we stand down.
So let me ask you this. If the margin is wide, then there is no risk that a third-party candidate could throw the race, in theory, to someone like a Donald Trump. So let me finish the question.
If the margin is close, we will still stand down if we don't see a pathway to win the Electoral College.
So just to be clear again, if the margin is narrow, and let's say it's Ron DeSantis versus Joe Biden, No Labels would stand down to prevent causing the race to tip to a DeSantis. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. No Labels will stand down because we don't see a pathway to win the majority of the Electoral College.
But is it a pathway to win, or do you have concern? Because we have seen
That's the criteria.
Well, one moment. We have seen what Jill Stein's presence in the race did.
Jill Stein was a protest candidate. We're not talking about running a protest candidate.
Let me ask you about Joe Manchin, because Joe Manchin has not said either way whether he would want to run. Joe Manchin is somebody who fits into the No Labels model, right? Joe Manchin has voted with Joe Biden 87.9% of the time. I don't know if you want to guess what percentage Bernie Sanders has voted with Joe Biden.
Again,
but it's 90.9%.
So what is
their
the question?
Voting record is the same.
Are you asking, do we support Joe Manchin? Is that the question?
Would Joe Manchin be somebody that you would want to support as a nominee?
No, right now, No Labels is not declaring support for any candidate.
But would he be somebody who is theoretically your nominee?
We can't. That's premature to say, because right now, we're not focused on running two people or one person. What we're focused on is getting the ballot access. After we see what the American people want, after they go through all these primaries, particularly Super Tuesday, we'll have a very clear answer to whether or not there's a pathway to victory.
Let me ask you a specific question then about Joe Manchin. Because Joe Manchin, who would be his constituency? I still want to ask because he has not said, good man, but he is somebody who, again, does not differ that much from Joe Biden on many things. But when he does differ, it is on support for voting rights. He stood in the way of that. It is on support for women's integrity, bodily integrity. He stood in the way of a bill to try to codify Roe. It is on things like climate. He did cut a sweetheart deal. He is an oil magnate and cut a sweetheart oil deal in the debt limit deal. Who would be his constituency? Who are these centrists that want that as president of the United States?
Well, the debt limit deal was a bipartisan effort that worked for all Americans.
The oil deal might not have done so.
We could not afford to have our country go off the cliff for debt. That debt deal was a bipartisan deal, and all Americans would benefit.
Oh, no, I'm not against the debt deal. But what I'm saying is that Joe Manchin is somebody...
He supported the deal.
And do you believe that Joe Manchin is the kind of candidate that No Labels would support for president? Is that sort of the model of what kind of candidate
you want? It's premature to answer that question. I want to put that jacket on Joe Manchin. First, he hasn't announced that he's running, and he has not asked No Labels for support if he's running. Who's
funding you? We're actually out of time. Can you tell us who's your major funders?
No Labels is a 501c4.
Yeah.
We get the same funding as the League of Women Voters. Do you ask them who their donors are?
I would if they were sitting here.
Well,
Dr. Ben Chavis, we are out of time.
Oh, always good to see you.
Dr. Benjamin Chavis, thank you very much.